Before we start, I would like to ask your help to do two things. First, tell a friend or two who you think might like the show. And second, please rate and review the show on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. The more reviews the show gets, the more likely it will even appear in search results. Thank you, and now on to the show.
They make the trek out to Burning Man for a week and a day. After a lot of work, oh, there's a lot of play. Party, 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 drama, 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 bitch, bitch, bitch. Year after year, they come back to scratch that itch. They all say their lives have been changed. After many years, lives have been rearranged. That change is what this show is all about. You'll see the impact of Burning Man up and out. So sit back, relax, and cancel all your plans. These are the stories about the shadow of the man.
Hello, and welcome to the Shadow of the Man show. I'm your host, Andy. Am I here to help you? No. I'm that Andy. Today, our guest is the one and only Ranger Crow. Welcome.
Hey, Andy. Good to see you again.
Yeah. So, what is your official title nowadays in the Burning Man world?
My official title is Operations Manager of the Black Rock Rangers.
So you're like the El Presidente.
No, that's someone else. I don't know what it is. Generalissimo Jacktard. I don't know. Yeah,
you don't get
like
the Noriega hat?
Oh, no.
Oh, see, that's what the guys need to like upscale your uniforms a little bit, like with the epaulets on the shoulders.
Oh, yeah. So you could do that if you wanted to. I think they encourage you to doll up your costume. Although if you were doing a bunch of whatever Generalissimo bullshit, I think that wouldn't be the greatest optic. I don't want people to know I'm in charge, really.
Yeah. Or even if you were just like a new recruit, you were just like, this shall be my uniform.
Yes, that's perfect. Yep, that would work.
I'm known as the capo of the Rangers. Yes.
I used to want to do this kind of stunt where I get a mannequin that looks like MacArthur in the back of a convertible with the little staff flags.
Uh-huh.
And it'd just be a mannequin, sunglasses and the whole thing. And he could be the dick, right? You could be like, let me go ask, and then he doesn't move at all, and you go, no, but he says, no way, I'm sorry.
You could even have like a button with like a sound effect. We hear grumbling, like no, no, like
yeah. We had a joke in the Rangers about authority figurines, rather than authority figures. It's a little,
that would
something
be
like that.
Good.
Yeah.
Because you'd be out somewhere and be like, I got to get approval for this. It's like, how do you do that? Do you like radio it in and be like, no, hold on.
Yeah. Call the general.
Ken doll. You pull out like, hey, can this person do this crazy thing? No, you can't. Oh, sorry. Plastic doll says no.
Yep.
So we'll start with the beginning with your Burning Man experience. So like, how did you even hear about Burning Man? Like, what was the first time you ever went out to the playa? Like, what was that all about?
I heard rumblings of that for a while, because I grew up in like San Jose, Santa Cruz, Los Gatos area. So we weren't very kind of far south of the epicenter or whatever, but, didn't really know anything about it. And it was like, I loved camping in the desert and, doing all the stuff you do there. But that was a pretty remote experience. That was, you go there. They didn't usually go alone, but there'd be very few people, right? And you'd go there to get away from everybody and do whatever you wanted to do. And that wasn't this desert, right? That was just other deserts like Joshua Tree and Mojave and other places, Mexico. But then, so I just had heard of it. But then my friend, I was in a band called Ruins with my friends, and our guitar player worked at KFJC, which is Foothill Junior College.
Hmm.
and he was a DJ there. He got into that, super into music. He's like a sound engineer guy, and he ended up working alongside people who had, started and that staffed Radio Free Burning Man. And so we were going to go out. We were going to take our band in like a box truck and go out to some ruins and trip out and look at them and play music. And we had this thing kind of planned for a while, and then his friends, I could say their names, like Dusty Balls and Jockey White, and these people who were DJs on Radio Free Burning Man. They were like, "Hey, if you're going to go out that way, why don't you stop by this weird event?" This is in 1998, and do some DJ shows with us, and check it out.
Uh-huh.
I think it was like whatever, 50 or $60, and there was, as it turned out, like I think 15,000 something people that year.
98. Yeah,
Yeah,
something like
98.
that. Yeah.
So like, so he was talking to me and saying, "Can we go by there?" We were in like my Suburban, loaded up with all this stuff, and we go by there for a few days, and I could do these shows. And so then I started actually checking out what it was, right, and seeing, oh yeah, no spectators, and so that actually was pretty key, right? Because it was like, oh, well, what the hell am I going to do while my friends, uh, being a DJ, and what is this, place? And came across the ranger thing. There's a rule now that you can't just be a ranger when you've never been to Burning Man, which makes sense, right? But I had been camping in the desert, all these places, and I don't know if it said this or I just took this away from reading it about the rangers, that like, well, if you can take care of yourself good enough, maybe you could help take care of others, right? You're not going to be the victim in the equation. You're going to be the person that helps.
Well, I
And I
would
was like, okay, well, I could do
imagine
that.
that's a good prerequisite. Right?
Yeah,
I mean, because
yeah,
if you can't take care of yourself, then be like, yeah, who do you want
right,
taking care of you? Like, not that guy.
right. Yeah, yeah. The guy who's on the ground passed out. Yeah. So that was what kind of whatever opened that door.
Well, how'd you even like? Because this is like 1998. It's like, I mean, you said you were like, oh, you're doing some research, you're like looking into it, and you heard about this, and it's like, how? I mean, was it even like, did they even have like a website back then?
They
I
did.
don't remember.
I don't think it was very old, but they did. There's a Wired article and whatever, these things that I did not see before this, but then
Yeah.
I stumbled across once our guitarist, DJ LSD,
Yeah.
suggested that we go by here, right, on our way to do the real thing, right,
Hmm.
and so that's what kind of started it. But they did. There was something online. I mean, there was a survival guide, and enough uh, no spectator Kool-Aid going on that I was like, oh, okay. But yeah, that's how we ended up going. We really only planned to stay for, I think it was going to be like leave on the third day or something like that.
Yeah, just like a weekend kind of thing.
Yeah, it was just like on the way, but we didn't want to kill our whole trip and our budget and whatever.
Well, where
And
was your
so
trip to? Because I mean, like Black Rock
it's going to be
Desert.
to
I mean, that's
Four
pretty.
Corners. We were going to go to like Mesa Verde and some Pueblo stuff and Anasazi, cliff dwelling stuff, and hopefully get somewhere, you know, close, camped somewhere, close enough to make the ruins accessible and visible, right, for where we could
Mhm.
play. And we didn't. This wasn't all lined out like we knew that we had permission or knew where we were going. It was just we were going to go do it.
So you guys
That's
had
kind of the
just
way we did stuff.
like an impromptu kind of like road trip tour kind of thing, right? I mean, did you are we were these like dates or like where people were going to be like, hey, yeah, we're going to be playing over here, and then people would kind of
No, no,
come.
we weren't going to play for anybody else. We were going to go play for ourselves and like write stuff and play stuff that we already had been playing. But
Ah.
yeah, I mean, it wasn't like completely impromptu. We talked about it. We were going to do it. I think maybe we knew we were going to do it for about 3 months or something, 2 months,
Hmm.
and we were planning for it. Yeah, it would have been. It was like at least 3 months because that's how then I had some time to check out Burning Man before we went, like
Okay.
to research it a little bit. And okay, I'm going to go do this while you go DJ, and yeah.
Well, that
right?
makes a little more
A long
sense
time.
because, yeah, because I mean, like Gerlach, like Black Rock Desert. I mean, it's like it takes intention to like go out there and do that. It's not just like, well, on the way to our show in Reno, we'll just swing on by
Oh
over
yeah, yeah.
here and do this for 3 days. And like, yeah,
I think our trip was maybe going to be like 10 days. I don't remember super clearly, but
wow.
something like that. It was going to be, right? Maybe even 2 weeks, but probably would not have uh, stayed out that long if we ran out of money. So
Mm-hmm. No, it sounds like a cool like road trip adventure. Was it like, I mean, you have like a little small caravan of cars or something?
no, it was, I mean, we were a 3-person band, and then yeah, I don't know. Our drummer ended up saying, guys, but I can't go, and we're like, what? And so then we had a buddy, Dave, who um also could play the drums, and he totally wanted to go for this whole thing, but also to Burning Man, right? And so, that was part of, of course, our instruments are in this vehicle. We didn't end up renting the thing we were talking about. That was a pipe dream, probably to rent something big enough to actually be comfortable. But uh, we came through, and it's just like, the bus came and I got on, and, I don't remember what happened after kind of thing. But we were coming in, it was like, not long after sundown, and not no big line that as far as it wasn't hours waiting at the gate, but we're coming down 6 o'clock, and I can see this big fire straight ahead, right, which was where, as it turns out, where center camp is now. But could see this big fire, right, and I'm like, oh, they're already burning shit. I know nothing about this place, right? Well, they're already burning some shit, and it's whatever, Sunday night, Monday night, a week away from the man burn. And then we get closer, like meandering our way in and trying to figure out what the hell we're supposed to do, and see people like running, and like throwing water. And, you know, this is like, basically kind of my first moment in Black Rock City of after coming through the gate, which was not a big deal back then. But oh, look, it looks like that's kind of an accidental fire, right? And as it turns out, it was this, hay bales that somebody who I want to name put a camp stove on. This is the legend anyway. Put a camp stove directly on these hay bales, and it lit up, right? And we're just like, oh, hey, well, fuck, welcome to Black Rock City. So we kind of circled that scene, and we're like, look at that. I think we maybe even said, you need help to somebody, and they were like, we got this. And it was pretty much going out by then. But then okay, where are we going? And we ended up kind of going around center camp out onto the open playa, and then ended up at 9 o'clock. About 9 o'clock in Bravo, right?
Mm-hmm.
And saying, okay, I guess we were finding a spot, and this is the spot, right? And yeah, it was quite the experience. As it turns out, life changing, I guess. But
Oh yeah. Well, no, I mean, like back in the day, yeah. I mean, it's like on the B Street where like you're showing up. Would you say like Monday, Tuesday, or something? It's just like, oh,
yeah,
where's a
it was
good
like
spot
Monday night.
yeah, like where's a good spot to camp? It's like I don't know, right here.
Yeah, what's wrong with this place? As it turns out, there was one thing that was wrong about that place, and that was because directly across B in front of us was Disturbia. And they were they were just doing
Mm.
the thing. I'm like, well, I mean, look at the name, right? I mean, I knew nothing again, but like they're doing it, they have little like motion sensors that would, if you're walking by in the dark, they'd be like, get the fuck out of my camp, or just, megaphones, doing their
So
thing.
for anyone who hasn't been to Burning Man or but might not know what Disturbia is, like, can you just describe what Disturbia was?
Um, uh, kind of weird anarchist people-ish. I don't even know if that's really what they were, but part of their shtick was, disturbing people. Yeah, yeah, no, usually with good tongue-in-cheek humor, but they'd cruise around with I think this is them anyway, like in an art car, and they're cruising around or some vehicle and just critiquing people's camps, saying, "Oh, dome, real original," right? Or like, "Oh, cute, a teepee," or whatever. Just like they were just like, but they kind of did everything like that they could think of to do, right? And they weren't
Mm-hmm.
being total assholes or anything. They were just kind of like, a little bit of sandpaper or whatever.
Yeah, yeah. No, I just
And I
remember.
don't mean to say it's bad living across from them. I just was saying that was
Well,
it was
it's,
a feature, right?
it's memorable, right? Yeah.
Sorry, what were you gonna say?
Oh no, just remembering from like probably way back then, like must have been like late '90s, early 2000s. Like somebody, kind of the idea of like kind of punking people or pranking people, like just like putting
Yeah.
like on a loudspeaker and back when when they first instituted the like no bringing of animals or pets. God,
Hmm.
I remember people bringing cats, dogs, like, oh, it's crazy. But yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, but I remember they so we put on a speaker like a dog, like ruff 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 ruff.
Yeah.
Like, or back way back when, this is for all the kids today, it's like when there was no phones, right? And so they would play like a ringtone, like a phone ringing, and
Uh-huh.
but it wouldn't be like super loud, so then you'd kind of be like, wait, did I just hear a phone ring? Or it's like, wait, did I just hear a dog
Yeah.
bark? You're like, this shouldn't be here.
Yeah. Yeah. The DPW had a recording, well, probably more than one, but of the dog fight going on, and they would play this and just get people freaking out, right? You know.
Yeah. And so did like, they tell people like, oh yeah, that's like, Michael Vick, like, he's like a volunteer for DPW and he started this like, secret club at DPW. I mean, it's like we could tell big pranks like that. People are like, oh my God, he'd be so credulous. He was like, that's wrong. That's wrong. Find me a
Yeah.
ranger.
Yeah. Exactly. Who can I tell? Where's an authority figurine?
I love that authority figurine thing. That's awesome.
Yeah. People are
So
so trained to just call, or call 911 about everything instead of talking to their neighbors or anything.
yeah. Well, I also had another kind of like funny idea of like a camp. Like the whole idea for the theme camp would be to give out fake radios to people.
Hmm.
You know? I mean,
Yeah.
it's one of those ego things of the plot. It's like I don't just have one radio; I have two. People are like,
Yeah. Yeah.
ooh, it's just it's like here now. Here's the camp for you. It's like here now you too can have a radio. And then people come
Yeah.
up to you, it's just like, oh my God, I
Radio
have an
camp.
emergency, and it's just like, oh yeah, no, these aren't real.
Yeah. Yep.
Talking to the authority figure, not figurine.
Yes.
So in your brief foray to Burning Man in 1998, well, you were there just a couple of days, or did you guys wind up like staying there for like the whole
No, so
week?
that's the rest of it is so we got there. One of the things that I'd done in advance when it's like no spectators or whatever, we were bringing in
Uh-huh.
all of our instruments, and it's like, oh, you kind of go book your own gig, you know? And
Yeah.
there was a new camp there called Gigsville,
Oh
also
yeah.
started in '98, as far as what I understand.
Uh-huh.
And you could go online and like, book time on the stage or whatever, like I kind of knew even then this wasn't like this is not a music festival. It's not where, like if I can go sign up for this, obviously, it shows you the kind of quality of who's there. But we signed up for two different gigs. One was at Gigsville on like, I don't know, Wednesday or something in the afternoon, and one was at some other camp I don't remember that was actually ended up being really close to where we were camped at 9 o'clock. And but so that was going to be like, okay, we'll leave right after that, and we'll get on to this thing. But we were, the more that we walked around, we were like, what is going on here, and trying to figure it out, and maybe there's about mushrooms. Yeah, maybe partially, maybe not, right? And just checking it out, and I, I don't know. This is where the kind of deeper part comes in, is that I was like looking at my own neighbors. Here's Disturbia. Here's like some tie-dyed hippie people from New Mexico that have a hot air balloon. And then there was this metal band with horns that if I remember right, I think it was called Heavy Silver, and I just heard this, like, oh, they're Heavy Silver, they're from the Bay Area or whatever. But so they're right next to us, and they're 80-year-old Republican gun nuts over there, and I was like, where, what kind of fucking intersection is this where these people they wouldn't even talk to each other anywhere else, and they were all here for some reason, and so as the time went on, right, and we realized like, okay, yeah, I don't know what the hell's going on here, but I don't think we're going to the Four Corners. Like I don't, we pretty much burned through our money, you know, at this point, and
Burn
we're not
through your
ready to
money.
leave. I mean, we didn't have a lot, but we're eating that food, we're drinking that water, we're you know, basically using up the resources that we were going to use for the other thing,
Okay.
and just like, and I still haven't figured out what's going on here, so I don't think we're going anywhere. And plus, now I've got some more ranger shifts near the end of the week that I booked in, and we should watch this, man burn thing. They're going to burn a man or something. Uh, and so we ended up not going right anywhere else, just staying there. And we blew off the gig at Gigsville, just like, it's
Eh,
afternoon,
playa
got better
time.
stuff to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then and so what, no one cares. And then there was a dust storm for the next gig, right? Where we were actually going to do it, and it was pretty close by to us. So we loaded everything up, and it's really a dust storm going on. We're like, I wonder if we're actually gonna, you know, play in this, And then we drove over there, and it was worse, 15, 20 minutes later, it was even worse, right? And we're sitting outside there, and we can see this stage just, you know, everything blowing around everywhere and starting to come apart. And we're like, I don't think we even had, like, gas masks or whatever, um, that we could have played in if we were psychotic. But we're like, I don't think we're getting out. I don't think there's going to be anyone to receive us. I doubt there's power. Like, look at this fucking thing right now. And there's a guy going by us with one of those huge patio umbrellas, like the kind you stick on a table, and he's on a skateboard just sailing past with the gas mask on. Like, we're looking at this out the windows of my vehicle, being like, yeah, pretty kooky out there. And so, of course, we didn't play there either, right? And then I learned that you kind of like, Fight Club. If it's your first night, you have to fight, kind of thing. Every ranger's supposed to work the perimeter, at the
The
at
burn.
man
Yeah.
burn. And so, well, I got to do that thing, right? And um, yeah, I'm just like figuring out what I should edit out of this. But anyway, I had to do that gig, and to work that thing. And this is my first, burn, my first, first time in Black Rock City, but also first burn. And they're like, yeah, keep your back to the fire, look at the crowd, which is hard to do when you're a total newbie and there's shit blowing out behind you.
Yeah.
Um, but so we'll meet up after this. Like, I'm gonna go work this shift, then we'll meet up after this, me and my buddy, Dave and Halsty.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, wow, okay, that was really quite an experience, And then we actually found each other and met up, which
Oh, you did.
was
Okay.
hard back then.
Yeah.
And there's people, we walked around the playa a little bit, and then ended up back at the fire, and there was people sitting there drumming, and people like with big long sticks and iron bars and stuff, like tending the fire, throwing stuff into it.
Hmm.
It seemed like, I don't really think that happens in the same way, anymore, that you end up with the all night vigil at the fire. But I guess honestly I haven't tried it in a long time, so I don't know. But anyway,
Well, I have a
I was
question. So how did you even get into your first like ranger gigs? Because I mean, because you were talking like, oh, you were just gonna like swing by Burning Man, and then Black Rock City, and then you just like one day bled into another, and all of a sudden you were just like, oh yeah, and I got these ranger shifts. I mean, like, so did you just kind of like wander around and you're like, who are these ranger people? Let me just sign up for a shift.
No, I was signed up with them before we arrived,
Oh,
but the training wasn't till Tuesday of the event week, I believe.
okay.
And so it was like right after that I started working, you know. But um yeah, that it's weird because I came to understand a lot more now, since then anyway, about like what service to the community is. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? I
Hmm.
wasn't of the community, didn't know what the hell it was, right? And so that's
Yeah.
part of where I was going with that fire thing. I was going to tell you to kind of finish that story really quick was
Yeah.
when I'm standing there with my friends and like looking at everybody sitting around and listening to the drumming and watching, people go everywhere. You probably remember that it was like the burn night was like a war zone then because people were burning shit everywhere. Like there's
Like,
no rules
yeah,
about decompose
yeah.
granite or 6 feet off the playa. And in fact, the people that were camped next to us with the hot air balloon, they had mounted the burner from that up in their truck, and they were just cruising around burning shit, like couches, and you could smell burning plastic just
Oh
everywhere. But
God,
so that's
yeah,
kind of like the scene that's around where we were, but we were at
yeah.
the fire, like looking at that, and I was like looking at my friends and being like, who will, which one of you guys will go walking up there with me to the fire. And just feeling like really whatever deep about it. And it was like this question came in of like, why are these people here? Like what, it, you know, this diverse group of people, right? And I had this thought of like, it's the biggest bonfire on the continent. Like this is the signal fire. This is like a council fire where a bunch of tribes meet. To maybe they were having heavy talks and we weren't, right? But anyway, it was like this is an intersection. This is the biggest bonfire, and so I just really whatever. Uh, that kind of hit me in the face, of like that is what's going on here. After a week, I finally kind of get it because we used to burn on Sunday night, I guess, back then. But then we stayed up most of that night or whatever, and we're getting around. It started to get like it was going to rain because remember, Drowning Man was the
Oh,
end of the event, right?
hmm.
And I'm like, you know what? I'm getting ready to get out of here anyway, and let's pack up, right? And so we got out. We uh, were getting ready, actually loading up the car and then starting to drive. And I had the thought for the first time, like, am I coming back here? You know, like next year, am I ever coming back here? And I just, immediately was like, hell yeah, I am. And I've been back every year since then.
So with your friends too, was that like the topic of the conversation in your multi-hour drive for back or wherever you're going? I mean, we were talking like, well, next year, or was it just kind of more like your own thing?
It was pretty much my own thing. I mean, we had a little bit of talk like that. They were pretty jazzed up about it, but they weren't like, oh hell yeah. I mean, I probably wasn't either, but I remember it being a very, a really strong affirmative of 1 second after I asked myself that question, being like, hell yeah, I'm coming back next year. And but yeah, Dave never did come back. LSD came back a couple times, scattered through, you know. Um, oh, he came back in '99, I guess, but then after that, he took a few years off, and then came back for one, took a few years off, but he didn't like whatever get under their skin in the same way, I guess, as everybody.
Yeah, yeah. Well, no, I mean, it sounds. I mean, like you. I mean, it's just amazing to me that like you signed up to do the ranger training and to volunteer for rangers. And it's like, and it was just your first year.
Yeah.
I mean, there's been a couple of people I've interviewed now that, one is Christina Ocasio, where she
Mhm.
was doing like regional stuff like in Austin, and she's done a couple like flip sides or whatever, and then she's like, yeah. And so then for my first trip to Black Rock City, I organized a village, and I was like,
Yeah.
like, wait, like, like, like what the hell?
Yeah. Well, you don't
It's
know
like
what you
your
don't know,
first.
right? You
Yeah, but
sign up for
also, but
something.
specifically like being a ranger too, like just kind of showing up and he's like, well, this is my first time. And it's just like, yeah, but I'm a ranger. It's like, wouldn't, I don't know. I almost think it's like, wouldn't you have to kind of like have that experience first to like know what you do would like be like dealing with people?
Well, I think that's true. And there's a whatever maxim that we don't train rangers. We find them and give them hats, you know, in some sense, right? And so that it was kind of a natural fit for just other experience I had had. Like what
Hmm.
was new was Black Rock City, really. You know what I mean? Like, oh yeah, you really need, these kind of people in a place like that, more than you do because do that kind of stuff for friends and
Hmm. So
small
more,
scale stuff or whatever.
so it's like you kind of knew how to do the job, say, but it doesn't like,
It's
it's like a
a lot about
firefighter. You know how to
speaking.
put out fires. It doesn't matter like,
Yeah,
oh, you're familiar with this type of structure or that, right? Like,
yeah. I mean, listening to people and finding um, finding a way through an issue or whatever, helping them
mhm.
find their way through an issue, kind of thing. I don't know. It's just
Yeah. Well,
I've
also
kind of
for
led
some
to
of my
that.
listeners who like maybe never been to Burning Man, it's just like we just explain the whole idea of like what a ranger is. It's like it's not they're not police, it's not private
Right.
security, you know, it's
Yeah. Not cops, not your mom.
yeah.
Somewhere in the middle there. Well, closer to your mom, maybe, I guess. But
Yeah. But it help
yeah,
with like
the
conflict
mediator.
resolution, mediation, right?
Yeah, good communication, good problem solving, good listening, being patient, being compassionate. But yeah, I mean, trying to resolve issues, and then of course, eyes and ears, right, in the sense of kind of front line for an issue that does need to be escalated to a
Mm-hmm.
medic or a firefighter or, God forbid, the law enforcement. Like, yeah, there's a real problem. Yeah, we tried to talk. Nope, we got to stop that right there. What's happening?
Yeah.
So then you have to figure out what to do and bring in the proper resource because they're not patrolling everywhere, and generally speaking, we as a community don't want them patrolling everywhere looking for problems, right?
Yeah.
So rangers kind of come at things. I quote a lot of like maxims or whatever, but first do nothing. Just like watch, make sure the scene is safe, see if there's an actual issue, as opposed to what could happen because people, sometimes gravitate uh, to the rangers that are, want to find the problem and then be the hero kind of thing. And so
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't help, right? That's not an effective
I mean, how
person for
often
resolution.
does just even like your mere presence kind of solve issues? Because I can
Sure,
imagine like someone's like having some sort of issue or two different people have some sort of dispute, and then you guys show up, and then they're kind of like, oh,
it's
but
true.
like even just like you're standing nearby and just kind of observing, they're kind of like, oh, well, maybe we can work things out.
Yep, totally true. And that's the first kind of thing is uh, presence, right?
Mm-hmm.
Visibility. That could have deterrence, that could squash some things. Sometimes there's like an argument, and then someone says, well, I'm going to go get a ranger or somebody, right? Or maybe that there's a staff person from a different department on site that has a radio, and they say, we're going to call the rangers, whatever. But when people, at least sometimes, when people see, oh, they said they were going to call somebody and somebody has arrived, this isn't really maybe going away, like I
Mm-hmm.
called their bluff and they called my bluff. And so then, yeah, that helps, right? I think there's times where we find out something's going on and we're there and we don't show our presence, right? Because we're
Mm-hmm.
getting information, right? And doing nothing and watching and seeing who are the players and whatever, and like getting, in position or whatever, and then saying, okay, now I'm going to let them see me, and
Mm-hmm.
see if that helps. All right, okay, now I'm going to walk over and say hi and introduce myself and start talking to them and see if that helps. And yeah, and then we'll just keep calling more rangers and keep talking to you and get till you get so annoyed that you stop doing whatever. And
Quit
you're like,
talking
great.
at me.
Yeah, yeah. I'll
Yeah.
just if I do what you're saying, will you shut the fuck up? And you're like, yeah, I will totally. I'll go away, and you're like, great, thanks, deal.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, so I guess you guys are sort of like the first point of contact, right? Like you triage. Like I said, it's like does this person need
Often, yeah.
like medical, or is
Mhm.
this like or is this something that's like oh whoa, 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 like this is like a crime or something like we can't handle that, But I
Yeah,
mean that must be also an interesting judgment call. It's just like when to involve like law enforcement too, right? I mean,
yeah. I mean, for us, it's mostly violence, I would say. I mean, I'm being simplistic, right? But that's largely what it is. Um, when I said like first do nothing, or it used to be the default action is to do nothing, and it kind of mutated to first do nothing. But the exception to that is like if there's any question that this is a medical that requires anything more serious than a band-aid,
mhm,
then it's not a do nothing. It's you're calling that in, right?
yeah.
If it's like I said, something that would get law enforcement called without much thought is violence. Um, not I mean, I don't want to say it's a common situation, but it is a situation that we're very familiar with is someone's super high, they're grabbing onto people, you know, maybe specifically women. Then another person in the
Mm,
crowd says, hey, she said, hands off, leave her the fuck alone. And that person gets hit, you know? And then they call the Rangers, and then we come in, and then sometimes they hit us, right? And we're like, okay, let's get him, let's get law enforcement over here. And unfortunately, most of the time, unless something is really egregious, how they hit you, like they broke your glasses and there's something in your eye, for example. But other than that, like if it's almost anything else, right, is just called simple battery, and it is a misdemeanor, and it is not arrestable unless it happens in the presence of law enforcement, who's basically never there when this happens, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you end up with saying, will you please arrest this person that has hit three people, including a ranger, in the face, and also before that was groping this woman? And they go, no, I can't really do that, right? So then
Wow.
okay, we tried to pass that on to you and you didn't take it, so now we're gonna kick them out, or if they're too violent, they might go to Rampart to the hospital there, take a nap for a while, and then get kicked out. You know.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if someone's having like a kind of psychotic episode, I mean, yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, do you have to like sedate them, or do you have to like subdue them or something? I mean, it's like who would do that? I mean, I'm sure medical would be like, yeah, whoa, we don't wrestle people.
Mm.
Like I said, like law enforcement would
Well,
be
so
like,
Rangers
eh,
have done that. They don't. That's like really not what you want to be doing.
yeah.
And if you do that, you're calling law enforcement. Before you do it, kind of like call 911, then administer,
Hmm.
to your scope of practice kind of thing. But um, Rangers have done that. We don't train people to do that. So again, it's like what you walked in with and what you're comfortable with, and we
Hmm.
don't order people to do that. But if they're watching something happen in front of them, they're using their best judgment on like the reasonable standard, right? To say
Hmm.
what would be 12 people would agree is reasonable, to have done in the situation given your scope of training. But then it happened enough in one year. We Burning Man had been flirting with bringing in some security people, and so ultimately they did bring in High Rock Security, which is a company that I am, a co-owner of. But it was because that community, High Rock, came out of Burning Man in the first place, right? So it's like that was the origins. They were Rangers, and then they were Rangers and Gate, and then they were Rangers Gate and DPW, and so it was like culturally a fit. But my point is that it was, here's another tool, right? It's not just luck of the draw who happens to be on a shift or on a scene or who has what training or what they feel comfortable to do right now. There's actually a group of people that that's what they're there for. Is if you're like, yep, this is when you need a little physical help with this, or again, just presence, right? Because they show up and they're in a black uniform, and that means more than a khaki uniform, and then it chills out because of that. But
Yeah.
and then law enforcement is still there, of course, right, as a backstop to that.
Uh-huh.
Um, but yeah, it's the stuff that you don't want to see in Black Rock City, and it is really rare. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
compared to any city, it's really rare.
Well, I mean, with any like group of people, if they say, how they say out of every 100,000, it's like, oh, if it's like 10 out of 100,000 is like a sociopath, or one out of a 100,000. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like if you have like 100 people, it's like, well, that's nobody. It's like you
Mhm.
have 10,000, it's like maybe it's one. We have
Yeah.
70,000. It's like, okay, now you have like seven of them.
Yeah, maybe, yeah. Um,
Yeah.
I mean, I would say that the instances are lower than that, but
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
like there are different levels, but the ones that are like full blown big problem kind of thing is probably two or three
yeah. Yeah.
a
Well,
year,
something
maybe.
I've also
Yeah.
heard is I can't remember what, but maybe it's kind of fluctuated over the years. But there's like Black Rock City is like what, like the third or fourth largest city in Nevada for like a 1 week period, or
Yeah,
you know
I think it's the fifth, but yes, for that
whatever.
1 week,
Yeah, yeah.
behind Reno, Vegas, and whatever.
But I mean, in terms of like statistics for a city of that size, I mean,
Hmm.
comparably, just like it's actually pretty
Yeah,
pretty safe, right?
it is really. And when I was saying two or three, I meant the violent ones that might need to actually be go hands on with or be sedated or something.
Hmm.
There's all levels of problems, but
Yeah,
that's maybe around where we're looking for that.
yeah.
And it's pretty much, I would say they're substance abuse or whatever, their inability to handle their high or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
In almost every one of those cases, they're kind of temporarily out of their mind, and whether they were an asshole before that or not, we might, not know at all. But it's actually very common too to have their friends say like, "This is not like him," like he's never like this. You're like, "Oh,
Yeah.
so there's a lot of shit repressed in there, it's coming out when he took a cocktail of whatever."
Oh, yeah.
Or
Yeah.
people are off their meds, right?
Oh.
So there's a connection there to
Well, something
substance
also
misuse.
like a difference between any kind of like law enforcement or security or peacekeeper or whatever, like in regular civilian life.
Mhm.
Like, if you're doing like, like the San Francisco Pride Festival or San Gennaro Festival or whatever, it's like you're not dealing with, a larger number of people who are altered, right? I mean, like maybe some people have been drinking, if it's like a street festival in San Francisco or whatever,
Yeah,
but it's like somewhere like Black Rock City, it's like, yeah, I mean, it was 70,000 or so people. I mean, like there probably is a higher percentage of people who are drunk, who are high on like hallucinogens or drugs or whatever.
something. Yeah.
Yeah, and just also in terms of like with the Rangers and their training, it's just, yeah, I mean, like how do you probably have like much more experience dealing with with people who are out of their mind, right?
Mhm.
Was that part of the training?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Well, you could get like advanced training in that. It's called Green Dot training, but yeah, it's part of the training. And the ethos that goes way back. When I
Mm,
walked in that training in 1998, I think there was about 25 Rangers that were there anyway. I mean, there was more that weren't there, but
hmm
it was not a very big crew. But they all had their own life experiences and their own weird path that led them to Black Rock City. And there was at that point the ESD was a part of the Rangers too, right? So it
hmm
was medical, psych, fire, what we call dirt ranger and just patrolling skill sets that were built in. And I wanted to say that there's just some kind of, at least for some of them, it was kind of like, oh, you're kind of a psychedelic ranger, like you have experience in that space kind of thing, right? Or they were full on clinical, you know what I mean? Like they were like a psychotherapist type person, right? And so you had the whatever the different tools in your belt there that the experiences that these people had. And Yeah, there was a phrase that was like sharing the same reality,
hmm
and which at one point was referring to the community, and the implication was that we weren't the clean and sober ones necessarily in the corner, with our arms crossed, not talking to anybody. But then that became more realistically and better to mean that we are sharing the same reality, and we are not high while we're on duty, right? It's
Yeah,
like this is what we're
yeah,
doing. That's something you need to uh, be cognizant of, because that is a key thing, like to rule.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
anyway,
It was just funny. I was just thinking about like, you were like, oh yeah, you don't want to like mess with the Rangers in black. But then it's
right.
like they should have the Rangers like in tie dye. It's just like, yeah, yeah, that's not
Yeah, it's funny when so Gate used to be part of the Rangers too, as a
really.
Gate department. Yeah, DMV, lots of things have just sprung out from a need from the Rangers that we
Huh.
started it. Kind of Rangers lead the way kind of thing in a army sense. But Gate was a part of our department, and when it was like, oh, but they're going to be going out and searching vehicles and stuff, right?
hmm
And running tickets and taking money and doing all the stuff that Gate does back then anyway. And we're like, okay, so they should be wearing black t-shirts. They said that, right? That subset of the
hmm
Rangers was like, yeah, we're gonna have them in black shirts so that they're not confused with the people that you really want to walk up to in Black Rock City, and
Yeah.
that's the guy who searched my car or whatever.
Yeah.
And then so yeah, then High Rock they stand out as not Rangers, although some of them were, but um, separate gig, separate duty, and their shirts say security on them, right? So you can have. I don't really think this has happened, but you can have like, can I talk to the nice Rangers again instead of these guys?
So
Yeah,
you
I'm
do
willing to
the
play ball now.
literal.
Good cop, bad cop routine.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it just needs to be.
So is High Rock, they still, is that still part, are they doing that? Like, or
Yeah,
is that,
they're still there.
yeah. Is
I
it
mean, I
just
don't
kind
have
of like on
anything
call
there.
kind of thing? Like they're not like
Yeah,
patrolling around.
right. There's only five or so on at a time, like a lead and two pairs. Maybe
Uh-huh.
maybe it's six. But yeah, they're just kind of on standby, hanging out. It's not that they have to sit in their car or whatever, but they're not patrolling looking for any issues, and they get dispatched by rangers. They don't self-dispatch, and they cannot
Hmm.
be called by law enforcement, like in lieu of calling the rangers. So they're like behind this firewall of they're our resource. You know, um, kind of like ESD is with the hospital vendor, right? Where
Hmm.
you go through their intake, and then they escalate you to this resource if you need it to be.
Hmm.
But yeah, I'm not whenever they're out there, it's kind of weird because the other big events for High Rock, some anyway, I should say, not as much anymore, but I am involved in helping plan and run the stuff, like kind of high level of operations. But Black Rock City, I have nothing to do with that. I'm
Hmm.
like in my own silo, and like they're over there and they're a vendor, and say hi to them, but it's kind of weird.
How many rangers nowadays are there like on like Black Rock City?
There are, on our roster, I think maybe it's like 1,500 plus, right? But
Really?
then that includes people who haven't been there 2 or 3 years, or
Is it
maybe
actually
even a
on
larger number for people who haven't been there for 5 to 10 years or something. But there's deployed every year. There's about 825 that show up, that work shifts, right? That we
Mhm.
feed, that whatever,
So like
cash in a credential.
on shift at any particular point, like in a day or night, I mean, like how many rangers would there be just like floating around?
Well, it ramps based on the op tempo of the city and the
Mm.
population. But I would say like on Monday there's 20 to 25, and on
Oh.
burn night there's probably 40 to 50, not including the perimeter, which is another 150 or whatever it is.
Hmm.
Um, so they're on this detail, right? They're confined to that space, right? They're doing that one incident, but the rest of the city has, I don't know, 40 plus running around that
Hmm.
are everywhere but the burn kind of thing.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And then we have it, it's scheduled in that way, right? Like where you can see how many open slots there are as it ramps up, and you jump into there and you get, credits for working X amount of hours that would go towards you getting a ticket or something.
And if you're a ranger on the playa, like, are you ever really off duty? I can just
Yeah.
imagine if we're just like, okay, I'm not on my shift, but then like something's going down. Like,
Yeah. Oh, that can totally happen. Yeah.
yeah.
And so some people, depending on how many hours they worked here before, are issued a radio for the event, and we can only hand out so many of those because we don't have enough, right, to do that. And then
Hmm.
there's the shift-based radios for everyone else, and we have to leave that pool there for people who are going to only work a few shifts.
Hmm.
But so if you have the event radio, and you're able to operate it, right, which let's say, you are messed up, but, we our people are pretty good on the radio. We drill down on that kind of thing of like, I need this resource at this location for this reason, right? X at Y for Z. But so we drill that down so you could, people are decent at it. And so, yeah, I mean, and we encourage you, if I'm going to give you this radio to carry around, don't leave it in your tent for the next, all the time you're off shift, because otherwise you could just get a shift-based radio. But and you don't have to, also, please don't be a hero and obsess about listening to all this traffic and jumping around into our scenes when you're off duty. So like, go ahead, put it, in your backpack and turn it off. And if something is bleeding or exploding right in front of you, then give us a call and give us your location, and we'll get some on-duty rangers to you. All right. So that's kind of how that works. But I mean, I think a lot of the rangers are pretty good about, taking their time, going
Hmm.
to Burning Man, as they say, and having that. I'm not, I don't know, in the role that I'm at, I'm not off to a hell of a lot, but um, you know, uh, at least 8, if not 12 hours every day, being
I
off duty.
imagine like, yeah, like when you're off duty that you would probably just be like, I'm taking off this shirt. I'm gonna wear something that's purple.
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes not. Like I would just whatever. And shirt. People still know I'm a ranger. They're still asking me questions or whatever. But
Yeah.
out at our camp that we have a bar, 10-7 Lounge at 9 o'clock in Charlie, which is like whatever, the Ranger Bar and Playa or whatever. And
Mhm.
so that's like a good place to blow off steam, and it's whatever, 50 feet from my trailer.
Mhm.
And then, try to force ourselves to get out and explore and have fun. But, a lot of friends that I have there, I see them before and after the event, right?
Mhm.
I mean, I run into them during the event, but I don't have to go find them, in the middle of a busy week just to hang out because I already kind of get that chance. And so then, yeah, there's a little bit of like, I probably spend more downtime at my camp what, than what you
Mhm.
would think someone, would do, to go have some fun. I'm like, I'm having fun. I've been having fun for weeks before these people got here, and I'll be here for weeks after they leave. So like, I don't feel the pressure to like go see everything. I saw that art, like when they were building it.
Yeah.
So it takes just a time constraint off of it. And but yeah, it's like I said, at least I get maybe 12 plus hours off every day. But then people will come up and ask you a question or some little things you got to do.
Yeah. Well, also I imagine like if you're like patrolling around, it's like you actually do get to see the city,
Totally.
right?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. Well, now like that you're in management, I guess it's like, I mean, do you actually still patrol around, or
I mean, I'm
you're
just
stuck in
on
an
my way to
office?
wherever. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a couple kids too, I have boys that are 14 and 9
Yeah.
currently, and, or no, 10 actually now. But so we take them out for a while too, right? And like kind of see it through their eyes, and they see it being built too, 'cause, we live here, but they see some of that happening in advance, but then it's big and crazy, and we'll take them out to go on art tours and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, on my way to wherever I'm seeing art, and I'm also um, patrolling, not really intentionally, but people will flag you down, and be
Mm-hmm.
like, hey, you know where this is, or oh my God, there's something happening over there, or whatever.
Yeah.
But I usually will try to whatever pass that off because we have a current chain of command going on, right? So again, I'm not going to insert myself into a bunch of things and try to be a hero, but just call in to Khaki, our dispatcher, and say, just got a report of this thing, and then they take it from
Mm-hmm.
there.
Yeah. And another thing, I don't know, for many years, that's kind of like it's conversations with people. Like there's different types of people that would go to like an event or festival or regional or Black Rock City. Like I know there's some people I always try and like, hey, I need help doing this, and they would just be like, I don't come here to work, okay? Like I'm coming here to have
Yeah,
a good time. And then there's other people, kind of like when I hear what you're describing, which is like, so it's like, no, this is what I get out of it. It's just like, I mean, it's
yeah,
not like I'm coming here to work. Well, maybe you are. I don't know. You tell me.
yeah. I mean, it's like it's funny because it's a good point of like what work is, right? Like so, like most of the people that I know, and this is because most of the people I know are staff, right? But like on gate, on rangers, wherever, they are there to work. Like I hear this said a lot. Like I wouldn't come here if I wasn't working, because it's like
Mm-hmm.
that's the part of the event that I know. I'm used to having a vehicle and a radio for one, right? Not putting on my burner wig and getting on my cruiser and you know whatever. So like that is a common thing. But I would say that like it's community service, right? And then sure, it's work. I mean, it's hard, but that's really, I mean, um,
The point of it.
if you
Yeah.
were going to do it for pay, well, then you wouldn't do it here, right? Because it would make sense to work just about anywhere else in the world, right? And then you also would have a different intention and motivation as to what you were doing it for, right? Which is something else. So to me, it's a lot about community service, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and like what, kind of going back to like, why are all these people here again? Like that whole thing,
Well,
um,
I think it's different
and
people for different reasons,
100%. Yep. Yep.
but also in terms of like recruits for rangers, which I imagine each year that this probably must be like kind of a churn, like some people kind of phasing out, some people like phasing in.
Yeah.
But I mean, I imagine it's probably like a self-selective thing, right? It is people probably like more interested in, like I said, like the community service. Because I mean, I can't imagine there's like too many people just like, I want a gun, I want a badge, I want to like fuck some shit up.
Yeah, we bet for that. If they're smart, they wouldn't say that, even if that's what they wanted. But we definitely vet for that kind of person, and there's vetting. There's it's I have people saying, "Oh, well, okay, how do I become a ranger?" And you're like, "Well, it's way too complicated." Like the way that things have evolved, like they've added a lot of steps, and now we're trying to kind of dial that back a bit. But and I'll spare you all that. But basically, they go to a training, and then they can, once they do that, they can sign up for an alpha shift, which is where you would walk with some mentors, um, a series of three people, right? So it's not like a personality thing
Mhm.
between you and the person that you just happen to be, you know, linked up with. And they, go through of like kind of the practical application of the training. And like now we're on the ground and they're like, okay, well, you go talk to that person, right? And just see how they interact and what
Mhm.
they're looking at and do they know where they are, or are they a liability to your team, right now, and stuff like that. And then there's basically an assessment, right, at the end of that of like, okay, do they got it, or should they wait another year, kind of thing, right? Um, and then if you pass the mentoring, then you're made into a ranger, and they, whatever, have you step across the line, and danger's old ritual thing,
Mhm.
and then they can sign up for ships, you know. But yeah, it's mostly self-selecting. You can't, you don't really nominate someone else to do it, but uh, some of us anyway, con our friends into doing it if we think they'd be good. And I stopped doing that. Like it didn't take me very long to stop doing that, of just being like, no, they're self-selecting.
Yeah, yeah. And then imagine like past that point, there must be some specialization too. Like you said, there's like a green dot that would be
Hmm.
like more helping out with people in the.
Yeah, there's I don't know, 30 some odd special teams, but within the ops branch
Hmm.
that I'm the manager of is like there's I think maybe 15 some odd special teams. One of them is intercept, that's the vehicle safety. One of them is the rapid night response, that are on bikes and can kind of fastest thing in Black Rock City as far as responding to get somewhere and get the right resources, there. Or just all the specializations that have developed,
Hmm.
over time.
But what about like
Mentors is
say
one of
there's
them.
like a lost kid or something like that? I mean, like you would have someone who's just like, okay, they're really good with kids, or like they're very trusting, or just say like
Mhm.
a woman has like a sexual assault kind of thing. And it's like I imagine
Yep.
she probably would want to have like female rangers, or I mean, they have
Yep.
that kind of specialization too. Yeah.
Hmm. Right. So if it's sexual assault, we have a group of people that are at a higher standard of training and more experience called
Mm,
troubleshooters. And they make it so that the shift lead doesn't constantly have to go into the field and leave everything else and go be an escalation point for, a ranger in the field. But so they're kind of like sergeants or something. They're in the middle of that, um, chain of command, their
mhm,
escalation point. And they're very familiar with the protocols, right? And the must reports and these things that we have to do and what resources. Well, they'll call khaki and khaki will say, oh, sexual assault, that means X, Y, and Z, right? They will call um, BlackRock, the ESD dispatch, to get a specialized resource. Rangers, they would send a green dot potentially, but if it's like a serious thing like that, like
mhm.
a sexual assault, then they're going to end up talking to the crisis interventions team from emergency services department. I'm trying to spare you I could put like 5 acronyms in that sentence, but you know,
Yeah.
there's a subset of crisis intervention called the Survivor Advocacy Team. So SAT is part of SIT, which is part of MHB, the mental health branch of ESD. And, but so that you get you the right resource basically
Uh-huh.
too. And if it is a true sexual assault, because you know in Nevada what that means is penetration, and it's commonly confused and they whatever, but then law enforcement will also be notified, and the survivor is presented with the option of whether or not they want to talk to law enforcement or not.
Hmm.
Um, and but yeah, it gets handled, and then they may go for an exam, you know,
Hmm.
um, to get whatever DNA and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you know, where the Rangers are kind of like the bridge to make that happen, to get send things down the right path.
Is that like, is it all the action kind of dependent upon the survivor, or does law enforcement? It's kind of like, when they tow your car, they'd be just like, I touched the wheels, your car's getting towed. Like, I mean, if they're just like, you called us out here, we're gonna arrest somebody. Like,
Well, usually they can't, right?
hmm.
Like IDing and proving it is the thing. But yeah, I mean, that's a good question. There's been a long back and forth over years with law enforcement about how to handle these things. You know, they want
Hmm.
to, law enforcement wants to interface with the survivor, which they refer to as the victim,
Hmm.
to say, to offer them these resources. Say, like, I would like to take your name, take your statement, all identifying information about the assailant, which Rangers also want.
Hmm.
And then I want to offer you these resources that are available to you, you know, through the county.
Hmm.
And uh, it's not uncommon for the survivor to say, I don't want to talk to them, right? For one reason or another. You know, these people have been traumatized, and there's a big
Yeah.
discrepancy on how many assaults happen. And I'm talking about globally, not Burning Man, but
Hmm.
and then how many get reported, right? And then it's not super uncommon for there to be a person who has assaulted multiple people and no one knows anything about them. So they're serial predators, right?
Hmm.
Which is what we want to find, right, and remove
Yeah.
them. But so there's a thing with that, and law enforcement really wanted to be able to interface with each of the survivors, and some of the survivors don't want to talk to them. So that left us and ESD in a bad position to, you know, say like, well, she doesn't want to talk to you. Well, I insist that she does. And so we have gone back and forth and worked that out, trying to make a system that works to where everything
Hmm.
gets satisfied. You know, and
Yeah.
the thing is dealt with as best as it can be legally, et cetera.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure there's no perfect system, right? And then
No.
there's also resources like the Bureau of Erotic Discourse too, right?
Uh-huh.
And just the whole concept of
Right.
like the consent and just kind of like front loading all of this, right? So you don't
Yep.
want to be dealing with this like you guys deal with on the back end.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, for the people that, you know, want to do the right thing, kind of like locks will, you know, keep a, you know, honest man honest. But yeah, I mean, like, or people that are in their right head, you know, like people that aren't completely blown out in some way.
Hmm.
But yeah, all of that helps for sure, right? And having a culture of that,
Hmm.
because when it's just, oh, someone's a little fucked up and someone else is a little fucked up, right, or whatever, then things can go sideways, and that's where I think bad, you know, peer
Yeah.
erotic discourse helps a lot.
I think even before it gets to like the realm of like the sexual, like just in terms of like consent, like over like all of the years, like I've had so many encounters with people. Just it's just in terms of like people spiking people's drinks, or like some just like weird guy coming with like this like plastic jug, like drink this. I'm like, what
Uh-huh.
is that? He's like, it's fun time. I'm like, no, no,
Hmm.
thank you. And another person was like, I want to drink that. I'm like, no, no, you really don't want to drink
Yeah,
that.
no, no.
Or, or like my good friend who. Like we had this bar, and back when the age of like plastic cups, the bar was just like littered with plastic cups, and she was like really
Yeah.
tired, and she's like, I just want to drink some water and I just want to go to bed. And so she just kind of just grabbed like one of the cups and like drank it.
Mm.
Wrong cup.
Wrong cup. Yeah.
16 hours later, like, ah.
Yeah. Yep.
But
That's the, you know, good survival tips. you know,
Yeah. Well,
because
I think
most of the, all of everything that could be pushed down to a level of personal responsibility, you know what I mean? And
mhm,
radical self-reliance or whatever, you know, like it's not to say that we're not a community, but like keep yourself alive and safe, you know, like
mhm.
have a buddy system,
And look
like
out
know
for
your
other
chemist, like
people. Like,
these tips. Yeah,
yeah.
right. You know, and then call us if you need, you know, beyond that, right? Because the
Yeah.
baseline is pretty good and we want to keep it really good or make it better. So
Yeah. So like failing all of the other stuff, it's like well, we're here for you.
mhm. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I guess this gets us to our second question. Your background. So where did you grow up? You said you grew up with like what, South Bay?
Mhm. Yeah, Edge of Lust got us, and then as soon as I could, I moved to Santa Cruz, where I had constantly been driving anyway. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, as soon as I could move out after high school, I moved to Santa Cruz. But yeah, that's the thing.
So what'd you do? Like you said you were in a band, but
Yeah, I don't know. So, I mean, my dad's kind of country. He grew up, you know, in Arizona, and um, so that was the way that I grew up, I guess, you know, and we to go somewhere where there was trees, you know, where you
mm-hmm.
were outside, we'd have to go for some drives, you know, and you'd take me hunting and things.
Yeah.
But then I would find like the kind of little spaces in between in our area, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and uh, you know, explore that kind of stuff. And find the places where I could go that weren't, you know, driving for 3 hours with my dad at 5 in the morning kind of thing. And you know, my buddies were, you know, that's the kind of people I gravitated to, and we, you know, some of the same friends, right, that I still have, and you know, one of them was this guy LSD that I mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but we ended up. So I guess after I lived in Santa Cruz first, I moved back for a while for kind of reset and you know do some more community college stuff and whatever. And me and my three other kind of best friends from like junior high through high school or whatever that I introduced to each other, um, got the apartment, you know, in this place that was not very far from my parents, and we were living in this place. You know, it's ridiculous. I'll spare you stories, but
Mm-hmm. Oh
we ended up like someone called us the Lost Boys. You know what I
yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
And then
Oh
it
yeah.
wasn't any reference to the vampire thing, right?
Uh-huh.
Initially, it was just this, you know, like from Peter Pan or something. And we would go out at night and, you know, um, go to these places in between, right? Go exploring storm sewers and go up into the woods, you know, on the trails because the park closed at 10 p.m. or whatever, right? And there's no
Mm.
alcohol out here even in the middle of the day or whatever. And you're like, well, fuck off. So we kind of felt like we owned the place after night. You know, I remember skateboarding down the middle of the street, just being like, yeah, so cool after a certain time, you know,
Oh yeah.
you do whatever you want. But so then I don't know, then, you know, did trips and did things, right? And, oh, you know, always wanted to, I grew up playing music, right? And writing and drawing and, you know, kind of artsy fartsy in one way, you know, and totally not in other ways. But you know, we wanted to start a band. And so we did. Um, and it was called Ruins, but that's what we did. And it ultimately got more places in Santa Cruz and was living there and playing music and taking trips, you know, doing dumb things and exploring. And so it kind of just fit in with Burning Man ultimately, you know, when I
Were
look
you
at it that
like
way.
even aware of like a cacophony like back then and like the stuff they were doing?
No,
Because it sounds so like similar.
yeah, okay, right. I mean, I didn't know anything about them. When I look back and I'm like, oh, we were doing that. But I mean, I don't know how I would have probably had to do that, felt even more driven to do that if I was like in San Francisco or Oakland or something. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah, yeah.
I was already feeling like suburbia in San Jose was, I got to get out of here. You know what I mean? Like I got to go find some nature, you
Yeah.
know. And I was
Well,
like an anthropology student stuff too, so I'm like, we're just like, this is what are we doing here, you know? Like buying all this shit and just totally disconnected from nature, you know.
well, smash cut to right now. It's like you live in Gerlach.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and I love it here, and that's a big reason why I moved here. I felt like there was a I don't want to get out of the rat race thing, you know, and from a young age wanted to move, probably from my dad, but wanted to move like out of what I thought was the city. It turns out it was just suburbia, right? But like to get out somewhere else and get some land and not to own it, but I'm saying like to be adjacent to
Yeah.
land. And yeah, now I just feel very blessed, very lucky to live out here,
Huh. How long have you been living out there?
Um, January of 2008 is when I moved out here.
Oh, okay.
So whatever that is.
18 years I could say because my son was
18.
born in February 2008.
Oh yeah, 18 years.
Like
Yeah.
18 years. Wow.
Yeah, we like it. And there isn't the rat race. I mean, it feels, I don't know, like the pace is pretty good, right? And
Uh,
when I was thinking and conning my wife into moving out here,
uh,
it was like there's time and space, right? These are the
uh,
two qualities that people try to achieve, right? At least in it was what I wanted, right? And s- spend their whole lives, trying to work towards is having time and space. Like, let's just go get it, like let's not fool
yeah.
ourselves into thinking that we are going to make $1 million and then go buy time and space, like just go there,
Yeah.
you know?
Postpone your time and space till later.
Yeah, and I had that experience of like running into expats in Central America and things where it's like, oh, they just moved to where paradise was instead of like going there for 2 weeks with their family and spending, hundreds of $1,000s and, sacrificing the rest
Yeah.
of their lives to do that for two
Yeah.
weeks.
Well, it's funny because like a number of years ago, I came up with this formula. It's like, God, I haven't thought of this in the longest time, but was it the three happies, the four happies? It's something that's like, it's like your happiness you'll truly be happy. It's like when you're happy with like, it's like where you're living, like who you're
Hmm.
with, like what you're doing,
Yeah.
and I think it's like happy with like yourself or something. And I just remember like at the time just being like, well, I'm happy with who I'm with, but not where I'm living. And then it's like, okay, now I'm happy with where I'm living and who I'm with, but not my job.
Uh-huh.
But then it's like you kind of like
Totally.
get like all of it together. It sounds like you and Gerlach, you're just like, well, I love my wife and I love where I'm living and I love what I'm doing. It's like, and I feel pretty good about myself. So it's like, woohoo,
Yeah.
firing in all
I mean, I,
cylinders.
I do wish like there was, I don't know, like some of my friends more out here, or like what? I mean, not that I'm not friends with people here, that I want those specific people to
Uh,
move from wherever to here, but just like there's I think it's on the Gerlach sign that when you come into town, it says people wanted, and then it has like a parentheses sometimes, so, but like, like
yeah.
there's that, right? Or my wife grew up in LA where, you know, kind of like an experience in the Bay Area where if you want something, it's right there. You go get
Yeah.
it. So she misses more community, more social things, more options other than Bruno's to get food, whatever. But overall, like I'm very happy with the trade-offs of this.
Yeah. Wow. Awesome. All right. Well, let's get to our last question here. So yeah, the impact of Burning Man on your life or the influence in you. I mean, got you to move to Gerlach.
Yeah, right. It's been a pretty big impact, I guess, I think.
Yeah.
Um, well, it's in some ways it just worked out to be an answer to lots of other questions that I had before this. I don't know. Sounds weird to say, but um, of like what is community, like in a more tribal sense than what gets thrown about as like, no, you're talking about the marketplace, right? Or
Hmm.
the political landscape, or you know what I mean,
Yeah.
that kind of thing, like actual community. Um, and even that, like, um, that has great importance. right? It consists of these individuals that are all important and then collectively make a community. But something else of like I was saying that I felt was answered by it, it was just communal effort, right? Like what would you do if you had a community,
Hmm.
civic responsibility in some sense, again, not political, but
No, but
the like
social.
social too, and
Yeah.
like uh within the ranger context, it's like public safety,
Hmm.
like that versus what's nice to have. Well, you want that, right? Like let's start there, when there's a threat or to something, right, or a problem that gets
Hmm.
resolved via community, right? Rather than like calling uh, some other force in or whatever, right, to do it.
Hmm.
But like some kind of unity too, and then this thing too of, and this played all the way out into the like formation of hierarchy too, but uh, it's like Burning Man is a vehicle, really, to something that's more important. When people go, it's this cult, right? Or it's you're drinking the Kool-Aid or whatever. Um, as a decent means to an end, right? Or a vehicle to say, yes, we do actually have freedom of speech. We do actually have a right to assemble or doing it. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Um, we have whatever a means to offer resistance to something that we don't agree with, right?
Hmm.
It's a pretty diverse group of people if they don't agree with it, right? As an alternative to like this consumerism or complacency, or just go along, get along.
Yeah.
And
Well,
so
I
then
think,
we had to protect what was there. I felt like that's an important niche that I fell into. What were you gonna
yeah.
say?
Oh no, I think it's just the whole decommodification thing. I remember like way that like Larry was kind of describing it like back in the day is that like commerce and like exchanging of money can just kind of like get in between people. You can get in between like
100%.
relationships.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. And so and then the whole idea of like a gift economy, it's just like not only you're just like, oh, you're taking out the, I mean, and people nowadays think it's like, oh, it's like anti-capitalist or it's Marxist or whatever. I'm like, no, 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 no.
Mm.
Like it's more about like removing these barriers between people so we can get to what's really important. It's like, I mean,
Yeah.
it's people like connecting with each other.
I think that's totally it, right?
Yeah.
It's people bring something that brings people together, right? Like I
Hmm.
was saying as a vehicle, but like for a good end, right? If their motivation is to make money off of you, then at least it's simple. You know why they're there, right? But
Yeah.
then when someone actually cares or offers you something, provides something for someone that it's not logical. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's actually compassion or whatever you want to say.
Well, if something
Then
is like,
that's what's real.
oh yeah, but like if something is like is for sale, I mean like socially, like how durable is that? I mean, like something which I keep
Yeah.
coming back to, like when I was talking to Coyote and I was like, we're going over this, like how many years been doing this? How old are you? And I was like, you realize you've been doing this more than half your life, and he was just like,
Uh-huh.
what? Like, and then it's always kind of one of my follow-on questions. It's like what keeps you coming back? Because
Yeah.
if it's all just a big party or it was all just
Yeah.
about like money, like how
Yeah.
durable is that? It's like, would you really keep doing it? Like, what, like 40 years later?
Right. I mean, that's, yeah, back to like intention and motivation and all that. I think it's like, from my perspective, from the Ranger thing, is like it's protecting that
Hmm.
core, not to say, oh, that's entirely pure or whatever, right? Like, because like you said, there's lots of motivations why people would be there.
Hmm.
But the idea, that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts, and that, that there's this momentum, and that it's not about you, which is another Ranger maxim. You may
Hmm.
think it is, and that may motivate you to do certain things, but ultimately it's not, right? And
Hmm.
the greater, sum is what matters, right? And so that's one thing that keeps me coming back, and this kind of thought that I think a lot of suckers fall into of like, should make it, as good as we can at the time that you're in it.
Mm-hmm.
And then someone will carry it forward, but it could always be a little bit better. So you just keep, engaging, to do it, and also figuring out what's next, which is a big kind of thing for some people, like, including me, who are like, what is next,
Yeah. So what
but
is next for you? I mean, you're just like this. I mean,
no idea.
you're still there in Gerlach, and you can be
I'm
like,
still
yeah,
here.
3 years from now, and be like, fuck this, I want to live next to Disneyland, and
Yeah. Yeah.
I want the city again.
Yeah.
No.
No, not at all. And I think that, like I have ideas that were, a lot of them are old ideas of what I thought I was going to do from before,
Mm-hmm.
before I took a little, whatever it is, 27-year, shortcut to nowhere. But yeah, I don't know exactly what it is, but I really like want to stay where things are real, and I want to
Mm-hmm.
focus on what is real, like nature and people and community and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um, so
Well, I think one thing's clear. You got to get the band back together, Ruins,
exactly,
and you got to finish that tour
mission
that
from
you
God.
started.
Yeah, getting the band back together.
Yeah. It's like we still
Yeah,
have 9 more days on our trip.
yeah, yeah. I just got a flash in my head of when the Blues Brothers, where she says, "Are you on for you, police?" They say, "No, no, ma'am, we're musicians." Are you rangers? No, ma'am, we're musicians. But yeah,
That's awesome.
I mean, I think of that. I think of, career-wise, I could draw some more stuff. Like I used to be a designer and whatever. Still, like I said, I feel blessed. I'm pretty happy with where we are, what we're doing. It's pretty weird to really fully understand the cycle here and be like, oh yeah, because there's people in town with bumper stickers on their cars that say, "Is it October yet?" Um, and
Is that a
I
Gerlach
feel
thing?
that, I get that, yeah,
Yeah.
right. Like, is it over? But now I'm in part of Nevada operations, which is year round out here. But yeah, there's that, and then also there's the thing of like, well, why the hell are we here? When it's really in the doldrums, winter and stuff, and then you're kind of glad everyone's coming back too, right? And you're like, yeah, I mean, this is going to become the most creative place, um, in the world for that week, and it's on this timeline that we're very familiar with. And then they're going to pack up, and then we're going to clean up, and then they're going to go, and then we'll go back into winter again. But that cycle is pretty ingrained in our family, and our
Mm-hmm.
and with Keeper, my wife, who's the principal of the local school, and with our boys, when you gonna build Tokyo yet? And yeah.
Wow.
But yeah, I don't know. Or no. What was the question? Oh, the impact. The impact.
Yeah, no, I think you pretty well answered that. I mean, we're going, let's see, about an hour and 22 now. I remember the email before you were just like, I don't know. I don't really talk about a lot of stuff. So it's like, I don't know. We got on actually a little over than I normally do, but
Oh, good. Yeah, some people are put you on the spot. They're like, "Tell me about your craziest thing," or just like
Meh.
you're like, "I don't know."
Yeah, yeah.
Nothing's coming to mind.
All right. Well, thank you so much for the interview. This has been awesome.
Yeah, thank you, Andy. It's good to see you again.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this show, please subscribe, rate, and review it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. The more reviews the show has, the more likely it will even appear in search results. Also, please tell a friend and share this show with anyone that you think might like it. Word of mouth reaches quite far, especially in the Burning Man community. If you would like to contact us, please send an email to shadowofthemanpodcast@gmail.com. You can also follow Shadow of the Man on social media at Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky, X, and YouTube. The links for all of these are available at shadowoftheman.com. Feel free to use any of these social media accounts to provide any feedback you might have. Your thoughts on the show are greatly appreciated. Thank you, and see you soon for a new episode of The Shadow of the Man.
Thank you for listening to this latest show. We have to make another one, so gotta go. Don't worry, for next month we already have one in the can. Very soon you'll be listening to a new Shadow of the Man.